Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the No Laying Up podcast. Solly here. New setup for my guy out in Denver. Big Randy is here. New camera, new backdrop. How are you, buddy?
We're feeling great. Listen, we got a new desktop rig. Should make the podcast live show experience a lot cleaner. And with that comes a new camera setup.
Love
So
it.
for anybody watching this podcast on our YouTube channel, you can see what it is. So Solly, this is my first big run. You know, we got a big week next week with the British Open. So fingers crossed it goes smoothly today.
Speaking of the British Open, our guy has gotten to Troon. He has been gallivanting around Europe with his family. He has sent his family home, and he is in golf mode. Mr. TC is here. Hello, TC.
Hello, greetings from Prestwick, Scotland. I've received word that Scotty Scheffler shot like 63 from the tips at Turnberry yesterday. People are buzzing about that, and people are buzzing about Big Shot Bob as well.
We have a lot to discuss with that. TC has not seen the ending of the Scottish Open, so we're going to relay it to him. And
I know what happened. Like, I know who won, but I don't know how.
I cannot wait to hear what you have to say. I've never been more excited to hear what you have to say. But first, you're going to hear what I have to say about the new Titleist GT drivers, because that's who this episode is brought to you by. Listen, I got fit into mine at the end of June, got mine in the mail very quickly. During the fitting, we identified pretty quickly, it has to be human error, because I got fit into the TSR and everything was great at one point. But over time, swing deficiency, whatever it was, my spin numbers had gotten out of control on the low side. My ball was spinning off its axis, not staying in the air long enough.
Falling out of the air?
Falling out of the air,
Okay.
1,600, 1,800 spin. I just wasn't like tracking it that well. And the
Those
first
are
thing
Randy numbers.
first thing we did, we got me in an 11 degree and the new GT3, and I'm got the foresight out a ton. I've been hitting a ton with it.
Welcome to the 11
It's
degree
been great.
squad.
It's going up in the air. It's wonderful. I'm between 2,200 and 2,600 spin, which is giving me a lot better carry numbers, and it's not hitting that little divey hook out there. So it's been a great experience. They sound awesome. I love what I've filmed a bunch of stuff with it so far. I haven't released a whole lot of it yet, but I love rewatching the videos because the driver just sounds freaking incredible. And it feels great. Just kind of feels softer or whatever. It's a stark change, and I'm really excited about it. I've played some fairly good golf with it so far. So we can't get into all the new tech of it just yet, but you can stay tuned in the coming weeks for more details on the new Titleist GT drivers in fairway woods. And you can go to Titleist.com to schedule your fitting for the new GT driver from Titleist. It's fantastic.
Yeah, it sounds better. It sounds like there's a lot of hot melt in there in a good way. It sounds a lot more like a tour driver. You're in the GT2 or the GT3?
Three. Yeah.
Okay.
As soon as it comes in the mail, you're just like, man, I want to go play more golf. This got me excited to get out and play a lot more golf. So winners from around the world. Robert MacIntyre wins by 1 over Adam Scott. Some good fortune in the way of getting there. Ayaka Furue wins by 1 at the Evian over Stephanie Kiriakou. Never had to say that name out loud. I've only read that one many times.
I think you got it right.
Okay.
Randy, I think we called that. We said that Ayaka was going to win a major this year. I think on one of our LPGA pods. And
in fairness,
of course we did, TC. I got to check the tapes, but of course we did.
TC says a lot of people are going to win majors, but the ISCO championship is still ongoing as of the time we're recording this. And then Kip
Zach's
Poppert,
co-leading.
Is he really? I'm not checked the board on that one. Kip Poppert from England won the U.S. Men's Adaptive Open this week, and Bailey Bish won the U.S. Women's Adaptive Open. Sergio and the Fireballs also won at Live Andalusia in a playoff, which we'll get to some of that. Anirban Lahiri had a tough go of it with a 18-inch putt to win the tournament. But a little run by, even for, if you didn't catch the end of the Scottish Open, and this also goes for TC as well, Ludvig Åberg came into the final round with a 2-shot lead over Bob MacIntyre. There was, I'd say, just a fair amount of scuffling in general from the entire board on the most part of this day. Of course, got interesting near the end. Most of the golf was pretty mediocre up to the final few holes. But Adam Scott stuffed it on the par 3 14th to take a 1-shot lead at 17 under over Åberg. Åberg then bogeyed. It's Åberg now, TC. Don't be confusing me now. He bogeyed the 13th hole. Adam Scott ended up having a 2-shot lead, but Scott bogeyed the 15th hole. Ludvig hit 2 great shots into the par 4, but lipped the birdie putt. 3 holes to go. Adam Scott is at 16 under, and Ludvig and MacIntyre at 15 under. MacIntyre drained a long bomb birdie putt on the 14th hole, and then Adam Scott makes birdie on 16, hits it up on the par 5. And Big Shot Bob, we're going to pause on this one. Off the tee on the par 5 16th, pulls his drive and I forget if it was Adam Scott or somebody in the group in front of them had hit a ball on a similar line, and it stopped well short of the deep part of the fescue, and it really wasn't that bad over there. But Bob's drive got far enough that it got into some very deep fescue, and it is like wedge out stuff. It is
nasty,
thigh high. It is.
It's very green. It's lush. It's thick.
And TC, you're not going to believe like what happens next, because he gets in, he takes his stance, and then backs away from his ball and takes a massive practice swing in the thick rough and clears out a ton of the rough, like a big divot of fescue gets out of his way.
How's that legal?
Well, it's right to where he was standing. So he now gets back into his stance, and now with the change in stance because of the grass that's been torn away, because he had metal cleats on, he hears
that's what they said.
The feeling of a sprinkler head underneath all of the thigh-high fescue where he's going to stand from the right side of the ball as a lefty.
Why is there a sprinkler head 40 yards into the rough on a links course?
I wondered that as well.
Or faux links course. I'm sorry, I don't mean to offend
that's
anyone.
I typed that same tweet, TC, and I deleted links out of it because it's not a real links. But so he's like in shock when he says he's like, you're not going to believe this. I don't know exactly what he said, and he calls in a rules official.
They literally talk about it like he found gold, like he struck gold.
Yeah,
like it's this unexpected discovery that he's made. Yes,
it's like the North Sea oil here in Scotland.
Exactly.
But he asked the question to the referee, like, I'm only discovering this because of my practice swing. Is that a problem? And he's like, no, that's not. It was a DP World Tour, a British, I don't know who the name of the official was, but it was a British referee that came in, not one of the PGA Tour ones that, give them the relief on everything. And he ends up getting a free drop into a super clean, mega clean lie from 248, no more fescue problems, and hits it to 6 feet and makes eagle. It was one of the most, like, I don't know what like the actual issue with this is here. By the letter of the law, I still don't know if he broke a rule by. I guess my question now becomes: look, if you stand on a sprinkler head, that's an incredible luck, like a stroke of fortune. That's part of the rule. Like, we can discuss about maybe how that rule should be tweaked. I get that, but I'm going to throw a hypothetical at you guys. Let's say I have a terrible lie where there's a small bush where I'm going to be standing and it's going to greatly affect my stance. And I back away from it and I take a practice swing and I just destroy this bush.
You could take baseball swings.
Leaves
right?
leaves go flying everywhere. Roots fly up. All of this. Now, all of a sudden, my stance is not impaired. How would that not be a penalty? Like, he changed his stance.
Yeah, I don't understand that at all.
I don't know the rule either, Sully. I get so scared, like even trying to take a stance in like foliage or weeds or bushes, like
or your backswing. If you hit like a branch, I'm like, oh my god, like I didn't like knock a branch down. I just hit the branch and nothing fell off the tree. I feel like I'm on pins and needles when
exactly.
I do that.
It's like I can't disturb anything about this. I try to be as light in, light out as possible. I thought that was just kind of like you don't want to disturb anything. It was kind of the prevailing rule, quote unquote.
And the rule, I believe it. I contacted somebody that's involved in rules, not involved with any tour rules, but he said a practice swing, if it improves your conditions affecting the stroke, being the lie, stance, or area of intended swing, that's a penalty. And it affected his stance enough to have uncovered a sprinkler head underneath it. Now, he also mentioned it may have been a penalty if he didn't get relief after that point, because now he goes to stand in. He never played the stroke from where the stance improved. And now it might have been a penalty if he would have played it. But now he's taken the free drop, hits it 6 feet.
So he took the practice swing before he discovered the sprinkler head.
Correct. That's what uncovered the sprinkler head.
Yeah, like removing and honestly, a ton of
like
grass.
That's where we get back to like I know intent a lot of the time bails golfers out as far as like what was the intent, right? Well, the intent in that case before he established relief was that he was going to play that shot. And as that's, like the intent there is he is basically altering the stance and the conditions in which he's playing the shot. So I'm with you guys, and I'm happy I'll check with a lot of the Scots here.
Scots are mad at me for being like, guys, wait a second here. Like,
go do a little straw poll around Prestwick, TC.
I wanted to get excited.
I got Turnberry tomorrow, so I got 36 at Turnberry tomorrow. So that might be a different story over there.
They might be talking about something else.
That place might be locked down over there. But Prestwick is like, backing up a little bit. It does seem a little bit predetermined or just sheer force of will that Bob won the Scottish Open.
And I wanted to get so excited about this after what happened last year. Like, I wanted, it was otherwise awesome. Eagling 16, and then he rolls in a 20-foot birdie putt dramatically on 18 to win by 1 over Adam Scott. Like, if you ignore the drop and the practice swing and all of that, it was freaking incredible. But man, that free drop completely altered the rest of that golf tournament, right? And I know we spent a lot of time talking about TIO and all of this stuff. Like, what doesn't happen with TIO, if there's a scenario where you are totally boned by trees or whatever it is, and you can't even reach the TIO, in theory, the rules official is supposed to say no, that obstacle's not in your way. It doesn't drastically alter the next shot in the way that this one did, right? And so again, I don't know what the fix is here other than can you make, TIO is a judgment call, right? For the rules official has to come in and say is this TIO, for obvious ones, they don't need that, but they make a judgment call on that. Can you add something in the rules to make a judgment call to be you have to fundamentally recreate the lie if you're getting relief like this? And that's a drastic rule change, but holy shit, man.
That's what the DP World Tour, or at least the RNA, has done in spots, right? Like when they did the TIO drop zone at Portrush, right? Where that was in the cabbage. Yeah. I mean, that was in a crazy. So I think that's been kind of a trend over here. But that's, it just sucks whether it's TIO, when, say Rahm at Riviera the one year, or it just sucks when it feels like something that wasn't going to affect the shot or the integrity of the shot drastically affects the outcome of the tournament.
Drastically.
And I guess,
he won by 1.
Yeah. I guess that's a rub of the green thing. Like Ludvig had a crazy rub of the green earlier in the week where his ball landed on another guy's ball from, 150, 170 yards out. That's just bad luck. Right. But I guess you could say the same with Bob of that's just really good luck. But I'm more concerned, why the fuck is there a sprinkler head there?
It's one of many.
In Scotland, of all places. It rains here a lot.
And I don't know why you're watering the I don't know. It just like I said, I wanted to really love all of what happened there because it was an awesome moment. It was dramatic on 18 with everybody around the green and his emotion. Gross. And it just felt marred by, and I'm not even positive I'm mad. I don't think I'm mad at Bob in this scenario as much as I am. The practice swing part still feels weird to me, but then just even without that, even if he'd have just walked up there and gotten a free drop out of that, it just all feels icky,
So I guess my question would be how would it have worked if, let's say he goes up and plays the shot and didn't realize that there's a sprinkler head. And then as he's playing the shot, realize he plays the shot and he realizes as he's playing the shot, there's a sprinkler head there.
It's too late. I mean, once you've played it, you don't have to take relief. Yeah, you don't have to take relief. Yeah.
And you would have to identify what you're taking relief from prior to, let's say he slipped on the sprinkler head while he was playing the shot.
Yeah, no, it's too
late.
That
wouldn't have been.
Yeah, that's too late. So, anyways, a second National Open in just a couple months for Big Shot Bob.
Commonwealth Open, right?
Yeah. His own National Open. I'm sure it's gonna be a hell of a celebration. Part of me still thinks the golf gods did owe him a little bit of one from last year. He really got not a raw deal last year, but just getting pipped at the post, as he said. I did want him to win one of these things, but just that way that it happened was not so good.
Going back, I was watching till 15, so it was we were in the clubhouse at Prestwick, and it was like the golf gods looking down and say, "TC, you do not need to see this live." And in such a sacred place.
It would have ruined your whole trip.
If that happened to Tom Kim, you would have had an aneurysm. You would have freaked out.
I would have marched my ass over there, or I would have waited for him in the players' parking lot tomorrow morning when he gets here. But going back, I think the the putt on 14 that he rolled in, the birdie putt on the par 3. I mean, that was a 30, 35 footer.
Oh yeah, it was a
That
bomb.
was, yeah. I mean, he putted his ass off down the stretch, and then so then on 18, was it just a no doubt?
So he had a
birdie
pitching
on
wedge in from
18?
167. He hit it, just to the center of the green. He had 22 feet, and it fell over the front edge. I thought he left it short. Like it was really, really close to not going in, and it fell over the front edge. And he went nuts. Ludvig hadn't holed out yet. Like it was dramatic. Like it was an excellent putt and finish. But again, the whole drop thing just seemed to, at least like on Twitter, just seemed to be like hanging over the whole situation.
No, it just sucks because again, it's like Bob hit all the shots, even after the drop, right? And we obviously you can feel how you feel about the drop, but he still hit an unbelievable second shot and made eagle. And so it sucks because it just takes away from what should be pure celebration, pure recognition of like, holy shit, that was amazing. But because of this like bureaucratic situation where hey, maybe not the spirit, but by the technicality letter of the law, like, yeah, it takes a little bit away from it in totality, I think. And that's a shame for everybody.
Yeah. I think if there's one guy that you want to win a national open, it'd be like a Scotsman winning the Scottish Open or an Irishman winning the Irish Open.
Shane Lowry.
Like you could say Canadian winning the Canadian Open, but like no.
That was cool. Just because you hate Canadians doesn't mean you gotta just throw that slide in there. Come on,
but there's
man.
so much cornier and stuff. Where it's like the Scots,
don't do this.
And Bob is just I don't know. Like he's a like love him or loathe him. I know you guys don't feel strong strong emotions when you watch Bob play. But he truly is one of those guys. Like I feel like he does play like real golf. He's a proper player. He's greater than the sum of his parts. It feels like, and I think he's a sportsman, right? Like he's like I know when Jock McVicker, the old sports writer here in Scotland, passed away. Like he drove down from Oban, like down to Dunaverty, like probably 2.5 hours down, and stood on the side of the road as his hearse passed by, and like. Just tipped his cap and then drove back to Oban. And I think there's something to be said with that, where it's cool. Like he's moving back to Scotland. Like he's getting the hell out of Orlando, which my thing to him would be like, well, why did you move to Orlando? Like there's other better places that
somebody failed you there. Yeah.
Yeah. But I think there's something to be said for the intangibles in golf, right? The stuff that makes you feel something or makes you tick as a golfer. That's not necessarily, hey, my swing is on form or, my putting is dialed. It's like, no, like I feel, having his dad on the bag in Canada or playing in his home national open, even on a kind of a non-links golf course. And it's like sheer force of will. And like, no, like this means as much to him as probably winning a major outside of the Open Championship. Right.
Yeah. Amen. And I've not been super high on his golf game, but it's looking like I'm more and more wrong about that, right? I mean, I do think the conditions and scenarios got to be right for him, to be ultra competitive, but he's compiling quite the resume. To last year, he was not this level of player. Like he was not playing golf like this down the stretch heading to the Ryder Cup at all, right? That was you were dreading him being on the Ryder Cup team. You were worried about him going into the Ryder Cup.
I know guys on the team were dreading him on the team, just as far as his statistical profile and everything like that. But yeah, watching him, like I watched a ton of the golf on Friday and Saturday, especially, and even just seeing the way that, because he does, like he marries up almost modern, like a modern swing with kind of creative play. Like he used some of the slopes, especially on, like, say what you want about Renaissance. There are some spots, like there's some flourishes there, especially down the stretch where you can use a bank here or there, or like even, it was really soft and kind of, just really slow this year. Right. But even then, like you can take it off the bank and play creatively if you want to, which I feel like brings out the best in him. Right.
Renaissance kind of get punched a little bit today. I mean, just the cold, I guess, and a little bit of the wind. I mean, some of those par fours, it must have been a tough wind direction, just because some of those par fours played really meaty. Morikawa was hitting lumber into some of them, and guys hitting long irons into those first couple. It's still not my favorite golf course in Scotland, not even close. It's just fits the bill. We've litigated this every year after the Scottish Open, but it fits the bill for infrastructure and to host, and the money all makes sense to have this event there, and that's why it is that way. But it was more entertaining this year than it has been in years past. I think it still lacks a lot of character, but it very much so was not designed to be a PGA Tour / DP World Tour golf course. And so you see some of that of like some of the spots you can miss around the green still are just not punishing enough. But I mean, overall, I'm less and less mad about. I would love it if it went to a true links golf course, but like, man, it just where technology has brought us and blah, blah, blah. It just seems less and less realistic the more you ask for it. So
I'd love to see them at least like in years when, let's say you do it maybe in years when the Open is down in like Northwest England or at St. George's or at Portrush or wherever you go, you have the Scottish Open at Castle Stewart, or like you move it around those years. And then when the Open is in Scotland, you just have it at Renaissance. Like, I think there's I thought Castle Stewart played awesome. And I know, Genesis and everybody stays there, near either on site or right next door. And it's a great thing. And you get a stronger field because guys are comfortable and all of that. And it's kind of a good warm up, but I do wish there was a little bit of variety of like, hey, have it here like 2 out of 3 years, but every third year move it around a little bit, because it just feels like you're kind of short shrifting Scottish golf at large.
Before we move on, I just wanted to mention, I thought Bob McIntyre's victory speech, or interview, I should say, his interview speech with Amanda on CBS, it touched on a lot of the things you were saying about him. As just, I thought he really conveyed in there was like an intensity to that interview where you could just tell how much it meant to Bob, obviously winning the Scottish Open. But I thought it was interesting talking about how a lot of the hard work he's done on like the mental side of his game and how he approaches, being in big spots. Solly, to your point about like, this is a different guy this year. I thought that was great. And that really, never really does anything for me, but results like this and interviews like that, I really appreciated his candidness, and that does a lot to engender like, hey, it was great. Again, going back, wish we didn't have the kind of just the stink of that ruling and drop on 15, but I think in total it was a great win for him and a great winner for the event.
Well, I think all we're asking for from these events, whether they're signature events or PGA Tour, just pro golf events in general outside of the majors, is to make me feel something.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Or to know that it means something more than just taking home a big check to whomever's winning, and it matters who wins and loses much more so than the points and the check and the status. It's like, no, like I wanted this trophy, I wanted this title. And I think with Bob, it seems like there's, because like, I'll be totally honest too, like he's not the easiest guy to root for out there on the course, right? Sometimes he wears like some of the worst shit I've ever seen. Like truly. But he can get kind of pouty or dour. And I know he's been really difficult like to work with as far as caddies go and all that stuff.
And TC, the pace, we got it. The
it's
pace
not good. Yeah, the pace
really
is
tough.
not good either. So I think there's some red flags there. But at the end of the day, it's almost like he seems like one of those guys that's almost trying to roll this big boulder up a hill. And that's not pleasant, right? Like it's, he's going up against guys that should be beating him 10 times out of 10. And he's holding his own, and he's won twice now this season in big spots.
And just the ickiness of the finish, I don't mean to downplay. Like at minimum, he was one of the 2 best players in the tournament, regardless of that situation, right?
Yeah.
Like, I don't mean to downplay. It just like he played incredible golf. It just, again, it was like we seemed like we were destined for a playoff there. Like, and we kind of got cheated out of that one a little bit with that break. But a couple more things before we move off the Genesis, but want to, of course, mention Knowing Up is sponsored by FanDuel. Whether you're playing golf or betting on it, there's nothing worse than first tee jitters. But with FanDuel, you can crush your first bet off the tee. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets guaranteed with any $5 bet. That's $150. Win or lose, we're going to have a ton of stuff heading into the Open Championship. TC is cooking up stuff. We're going to have a FanDuel preview show that'll be out in the early part of this week. We're going to be making some picks throughout the course of the week. We do some picks during the week. It's just very fun. We've greatly appreciated partnering with them. You can go for the green all PGA Tour season long with bets like longest drive, close to the pin, outright winners, and more. Visit FanDuel.com/NLU and hit your first bet right down the middle of the fairway with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. FanDuel, official betting operator of the PGA Tour. Must be 21 or older, 18 or older in D.C. and President select states. Gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER. Visit rg-help.com. First online real money wager, only $10 first deposit required. Bonus issued as non-withdrawable bonus bets that expire 7 days after street restrictions apply. See terms at sportsbook.fanduel.com. TC, a lot. I feel like you're going to get put on the stand a little bit here tonight.
I know where we're going here. Okay.
I'm just going to give a sample of some questions that were sent in. We put out a call for questions. I did not pull every one here. Okay. Drew D. Brown, 34, is Ludvig just Fleetwood? Brian Kirshner, is Ludvig just a guy? Tyler Munson, 7. Ludvig got the Sunday scaries. There was a lot more. I could have been more.
I can't even believe you read Brian Kirshner's tweet, because that guy, some of the worst takes on the internet.
Listen, that's besides the point.
One of the foremost Ludvig haters.
You're already dodging. You're already dodging here, TC. Like, what do we have to say for our guy Ludvig? He's our guy. We've shared him, for many years now. But incredible floor. Is it?
Perhaps Randy should be putting both of us on the stand.
I'll answer for it. Sure, that's fine. I'll take your side. When do we get concerned about the Sunday stuff?
I mean, it was Saturday stuff last year. Now it's Sunday stuff. He was a little, like, he shot what did he shoot yesterday? 60 on Saturday, 65. And that was probably like the worst he could have shot. I was a little bit disappointed with how he played on Saturday. And then, it's just a few, I don't know, the 3-putt here or there, a loose swing. Like, what was the one, the par 3 down the stretch today? What was that, 14? That was 13. Sorry, it was par 4, 13. It was a 2-shot swing with him and Adam Scott. They were tied, and then Scott goes to 17, hits it close on like he was a hole ahead, and Ludvig just, misses a comebacker. And it does. I mean, some of it does feel a little bit Tommy-ish, right? They're both exceptional ball strikers and drive it on a string. And the putter, I think there were a few putts today that he left short, like noticeably short, that it was pretty tentative on. Some of that is could just be, hey, the greens are slow. They're not going to be lightning this week at Troon either. They'll probably roll a 10-5, 11. So I don't know. I don't know what to chalk it up to, but I do think if we've seen anything with Ludvig, it's that, like, he missed the cut at this event last year, and he was in the hunt. He shot 64, 64, 65, 73. Mm-hmm. You wonder if there's anything going on with, like, obviously there's stuff going on with the knee. He's going to get it cleaned out, but hey, like, is that, on the 4th day of a tournament, is that factoring in at all? I know he did a lot of work the last week and a half in Sweden up at Barsebäck with Peter Hansen, his coach there. So I don't know. I think there's legitimate concerns, but I think if he showed us anything, it's that he's pretty good at turning a weakness into a strength. Like, his chipping's gotten a lot better over the last 9-12 months. And I have no doubt that, like, I don't think this is going to be scar tissue building up for him. Like, he doesn't seem like the kind of guy that's going to, like, he's always been kind of a killer. Like, in college, he loved the big spot. He made a crucial mistake at Augusta on 11, but I think he acquitted himself well. Pinehurst, he was probably a little bit out of his depth just as far as experience and course management there. Like, it's such a young part of his pro career. So certainly, like, the haters and losers out there can say what they want to say, but I would bet on Ludvig 10 times out of 10 I think he's going to win, like, a lot of majors. And I think this is a blip in the radar, and this is something that he'll use to get better in the long run. So
he's going to have so many freaking chances. Like, he's just going to be like in the top 15 going into the final round, like, over half the time at least. Probably. I mean, he's just so freaking good. The floor is so high. It is a standard, though, that we have to hold him to, that we've held everyone to. Finau had the trial by fire from you guys on being really good and not winning it.
Yeah, but Ludvig won. Yeah, but Ludvig,
like,
the way that Ludvig won in Switzerland last year, and then the way that he won at the end of the year last year at Sea Island, that should engender more latitude for him.
He's got time,
especially doing it. And like, he's just, I mean, like, he's not a perfect player. He's got a lot of stuff to work on, but I think his floor is so high, right?
Yeah, it does take another gear to like go out and win a lot. I think he's going to win a ton. This will be a forgotten part of the conversation, but we haven't seen it yet, right? We all have crowned him in that way in terms of he does have this kind of bigger. He's won the RSM, which is a fine fall series event, but has not gone out and won on PGA. Now, granted, like he just got on the PGA Tour like a year ago.
I was going to say he's like
very
the
much
fourth ranked player in the world.
We're fine, but it hasn't happened yet. It's just worth pointing out and noting and having the
Totally.
discussion.
He's got, all right, so he's played 14 events this year. He's got 2 runner-ups, 6 top 10s, 10 top 25s, 13 cuts made, 1 missed cut. You look at this event and you're all right, that's another one. Like that's not even in those stats. It's a T4, right? So his floor is high and he's going to learn how to convert more of those opportunities into wins. I have no doubt.
Any input here, Randy?
Randy, any qualms there?
No, I think that's exceedingly fair. I think it's exceedingly level-headed.
Which is not what we're going to do here. Go dive in.
I know, which feels a little dirty and like not what we're about. So I'm struggling a little bit. I don't know. The player he most reminds me of is I was just thinking. I know we're going to go to the LPGA after the Genesis, but it's a little bit like Rose Zhang, right? Where they get the win and they're in contention and everybody has these high expectations. But it's just not that easy to stack wins, right? They've both stacked like really good finishes and pretty consistent play, but it's difficult to win. So I think, Ludvig's maybe guilty of not just coming on the scene and being a total revelation like a Tiger Woods, but nobody is. Like that's the thing. It's like it's just an impossible standard to judge him against right now. And so
it took Scotty a little while.
Mere mortals.
Scotty's a great freaking comp here. I mean, I don't think he's going to turn into Scotty, but Scotty was this guy before he won 4 times in 2022. Like he was very much like, when's he going to win one of these things?
And then so I think also,
if you like your takes hot, like yes, hey, scar tissue, can Ludvig win the big one? Which I do like. I like dabbling in that from time to time. It's entertaining, but I think my actual true beliefs here are like, yeah, it's just a lot of experience for him to be gaining, and he just is a very, very, very proper golfer. And I agree with everything you guys are saying. Yeah. Like he's gonna start picking off, converting these to wins at a higher clip as he gets more experience.
I think also like some of it's recency bias too, because I think like if you go back to, the Pebble, right? I think he was primed to like go out and win that tournament, and the final round gets canceled. Yeah. Or, I mean, everybody thinks about
super
the Masters.
Cold going into that final round. He was, coming off that 60 in round 3. Yeah.
Yeah. But like, I think the Masters, everybody's like, oh, like he was right in the hunt and like didn't play well on Sunday. Like he shot 69 on
he played well.
Pretty tough fucking setup. And then Heritage, he shot 72 on, like he started out 66 on the first 2 days and then shot 72 on Sunday. Or at Jack's place, Memorial, he shoots 74 on Sunday. Like there's some recency stuff, but also like I wouldn't have Heritage and Memorial pegged as like the 2 best course fits on tour for someone like him either, right?
It'll be fun. Joe Corsini asked, "Is Sahith just Spieth in a hoodie?" I don't have anything to add on that other than that's just funny. That just made me laugh. That's why we like him. He's fun.
Yeah.
And Jeff
he
Bruder,
was talking about with his caddy. Just they were talking through a shot yesterday, and he was like, "Oh, you want like the super flop, right? You want it sounded like us talking,
the mega flop.
Like, oh, I'm gonna hit the mega flop." Like, it's just refreshing.
Jeff Bruder, many people threw this one in, but does the sprinkler head get replaced with a plaque? I think it most certainly has to be a plaque-worthy right of 16.
Hopefully they spell it right. Rory got a plaque from where he hit the shot into 18 last year.
They spelled his name wrong.
They spelled his fucking name wrong.
That's unlucky. Speaking of Rory, this was the first we'd heard from him since Pinehurst. Didn't really express much regret for anything that went down in terms of storming out of the parking lot and not giving quotes and all that, which I was, I guess, not surprised with, but a little, kind of continuing the same thoughts in terms of like, no, I still feel the same way, man. Like everyone else kind of faced the music on this one. Like that was kind of the moment that you needed to answer things. And he was asked about the biggest headlines have been this week were asked about some of the criticisms that have been lobbed towards Harry Diamond. And he replied saying, it's certainly unfair. Talking specifically about Hank Haney and Smiley Kaufman's comments, He said, Hank Haney has never been in that position. Smiley's been in that position once. I love Smiley, and he was out there with us on 18. But just because Harry is not as vocal or loud with his words as other caddies, it doesn't mean that he doesn't say anything and that he doesn't do anything. I just wish that, these guys that criticize when things don't go my way, they never say anything good when things do go my way. Where were they when I won in Dubai earlier this year, or Quail Hollow, or the 2 FedEx Cups I've won with Harry, or the 2 Ryder Cups or whatever? They are never there to say Harry did such a great job when I win, but they're there to criticize when we don't win. At the end of the day, they're not there. They're not in the arena. They're not the ones hitting the shots and making the decisions. Someone said to me once, if you'd never take advice from these people, you would never take their criticisms either. Certainly wouldn't go to Hank Haney for advice. I love Smiley, but I think I know what I'm doing, and so does Harry.
Sounds like Rory needs some voodoo cream right now.
Any reaction to these comments?
I don't think they're out of bounds, but I also think the reason that nobody says anything about those events is because sometimes those setups aren't the events that you need someone to lean on, right?
Yeah.
They're pretty straightforward setups and course conditions, and they're PGA Tour events, right?
And I think I'll say the same thing I've said on this for years whenever the Harry Diamond conversation has come up in this regard is it is not at all, never the question about Harry's caddying ability. He's a fantastic player. He's been on Rory's back for 7 years now. You are a professional caddy very quickly. You caddied a few tournaments, you're a professional caddy. And it's not about his ability. It is about Rory's entire process, right? And the whole system that he sets up that ultimately leads to him making the best decision, right? Harry does not make the decisions. Harry can say whatever he wants. That was not Harry's fault what happened on the back 9 at Pinehurst at all. Some people have lobbed that criticism or put the wrong club in his hand. It's no, Rory's in charge of putting Harry in that spot, one, and reaching the proper conclusion, right? So it's Rory's decision to have Harry on the bag. And if Harry doesn't step up and say, no, this is 8 iron on 15, that makes it Rory's call, right? The other option is having a more established or somebody that's not your best friend as the caddy there, that is there to be your auditor, be your checkpoint of hey, let's think about this. Let's go through this. Let's go do this way. We're going to go through a different process than you go through with this guy that's ultimately going to lead us to the right conclusion. And Rory has decided to go a different direction with that, which I think points this criticism. He's reading these as criticisms towards Harry. And I think they're more accurately criticisms towards Rory, critiques, not even necessarily criticisms, but fair questions to ask in this scenario, right? Where how you ended up going long of 15 is a decision you ultimately landed on. But part of the process here was, maybe if Bones is on the bag, you end up with 8 iron in the bag. Maybe you don't get there if Bones is on the bag. Maybe you're not leading when you get to 15. But again, the question is always towards Rory and not pointed at Harry. I feel Harry gets unfairly maligned in this scenario, and I think Rory's misinterpreting that or deflecting that a little bit.
I tend to agree with that, Solly. Let me preface all this by saying I have no idea Harry's impact on Rory's performance. I simply can't judge that because we don't know. Maybe Harry puts Rory at ease and helps him play.
I think he's a lot more than a caddy.
More often than not, right? But I do think it's fair. A guy like Rory who burst onto the scene and now is 10 years without winning a major and has been with Harry for 7 years. It is fair for people to start to wonder, hey, it's got to be something. And if making a caddy switch, if that's a tiny incremental improvement in the heat of a moment in a major championship, it still could be fair criticism or fair to wonder and ask the question. And I give Roy credit, he's probably thought about all this stuff too. And on balance, he's chosen to stay with Harry. So I tend to lean where you are, Solly, where he's made his decision. This is on Rory. This is the way it's going to be. And I feel we should go forward with that. But I do think it's not unfair to just wonder hey, with a different caddy, is that something that could have changed a decision here or there that ultimately could have resulted in a major? It's a great unknown. That's kind of the beauty of it. Nobody will ever know.
It feels kind of macro, micro, right?
Yeah.
The totality of Harry's involvement could be, extremely positive, but
it's hard to say it's not.
Exactly.
With all the good golf they've played out, both in majors, not won them, but played good golf in majors and won a shitload and done extremely well in 7 years in regular tour events. It's hard to say that he's not contributed to that.
It's the same thing as saying, it's like Kyle Shanahan, right? Of like, hey, like they're winning a shitload of games and getting to the big game and they can't close. But hey, is there something there in your coaching philosophy, or it's like a similar conversation there. I think like I was more just optimistic with, like, I was glad Rory took the same kind of tact and reflected on the way that everything went down, because I think, like, yes, it's a devastating loss, but also there's so much good to pull from it.
Sure.
Like, he played, that's the best golf I've ever seen him play.
Yeah.
Like because I feel like he had to play great golf. He had to play perfect golf with Bryson and with those course conditions and everything. Whereas like some of the other majors that he's won, like I don't think he played even close to as good a golf from that. I just don't think the field was as good, and I don't think that the conditions were as exacting, and the line was as fine. And so, that was a tough putt on 18. I like it, but I think it's fair to wonder, all right, yeah, like the putt on, was that 15?
16.
Like, or on
the
16.
short one
like,
was 16. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's like there's, that's just scar tissue buildup or tension buildup from the the preceding 3.5 days. So I think it's good that like the thought of him walking around New York
on the high
baseball hat on the high line, just it was so Kendall Roy. I mean, it was. I read that and I just started cracking up because, like, he's a big Succession guy, and he's just him just brooding around New York in a hat, just walking, probably with some headphones in, on the phone, taking calls, probably listening to music or podcasts or whatever. It's just such an interesting, thought exercise.
And to close the book on it too is like, you can't, to Rory's point on this, is like the whole tournament week is a series of decisions that you're making, that like, it's not just like all of a sudden you get to 15 and you're like, oh, time to make a decision here, and right or wrong. Like, you can make the right call 35 times throughout it, and you make the wrong call, in that spot, it's going to get scrutinized. Right. And again, I still go back to like, Rory McIlroy knew not to hit it over the 15th green. Like that, there's no part of like any of that I would want to blame Harry for in any way. So
sometimes it's also just like, sometimes you just have a bad number. Right?
Totally. And maybe he didn't think,
hey, like the way they set
totally.
the course up today, and that pin and that tee, like, man, that's right in between clubs for me. And I'm just, I got to make the best of a bad situation. That's just not a great number for me.
Very well.
Right?
So before we get to Evian, for 125 years, Pinehurst Resort has been the home of American golf, and yet there's never been a better time to be there. The championship legacy of Donald Ross's masterpiece, Pinehurst #2, we just got done talking about that, endures as the U.S. Open's first anchor site. 5 U.S. Opens scheduled to return over the next 2 decades. You had Gil Hanse's redesigned Pinehurst #4 or #6, which is home of the first U.S. Adaptive Open, which just happened this past week. Those are just 3 of the 9 championship golf courses to experience at Pinehurst. After testing your game there, grab a few wedges and enjoy a loop at the Cradle. 789-yard short course, been hailed as the most fun 10 acres in golf. And off the course, indulge in an array of craft beers brewed on site at Pinehurst Brewing Company, or relax with your buddies at the stylish North and South Bar. Pinehurst continues to evolve, making it much more than a bucket list destination, but a place to return again and again. Go to pinehurst.com now to plan your visit. They got Pinehurst #10 now too. The copy there says 9 championship golf courses. There's 10 of them now up there now. So pinehurst.com to plan your visit there.
One last thing. I do think Bob, if he wants to get back on the Ryder Cup team, he needs to apologize to Ludvig for his slow play. Like I think that that is one thing I am concerned about, that Ludvig plays so fast.
It's a good point.
That that's something like, and that's the sad thing with pro golf, is like something that we laud the guy on is actually maybe a weakness, that he plays so fast.
You're coming around on this take of mine, TC.
And it's, and it's, I've seen it a couple times now where he's paired up with somebody that's really deliberate and doesn't handle it great. And
I know you didn't see it on 16. He was visibly frustrated.
Yeah.
They mentioned he was actually frustrated with the pace of play of everything that
and
went.
You got Tom
and
Kim up ahead and things of that nature. Yeah.
You almost made it through the whole section without a Tom Kim, unnecessary Tom Kim dig. On to the
anybody else we want to shout out? Like I think Aaron Rye, he's having a like T4 unbelievable season.
Great run. Rory had a T4 as well.
Randy's guy, Romain Langasque on Bastille Day. What a remarkable situation there. Morikawa's playing really good golf right now.
Yeah.
That's where I thought you were going with Randy's guy.
and Adam Scott, we barely
Colin's
talked
prime
about
next week.
how he
Yeah.
played 67, 65, 64, 67 to miss the playoff by one as a result
Troon
of that.
should set up quite well for Adam Scott's game. And then I don't know. I got to shout out Noren too. And I've been in Sweden the last few weeks, and Noren's bucking his head a little bit, Solly.
Doing some stuff. Spieth missed cut. JT had a great opening round and did not keep it going after that. Unfortunately, the pro did not have a great weekend, 73-69.
What's going on with the pro? Is it getting off the tee? Seems like his driver stats are struggling.
He struggled off the tee this week. His approach play was not very good either. Yeah, he lost strokes with iron. He might be fighting the swing a little bit right now. So, but you never know. You get to the Open Championship and you get a little wind out there. Like you might, all of a sudden stop thinking about your golf swing and just start thinking golf shots, and it can turn around really quickly.
The night is always darkest before the dawn. I'd also like to shout out Tommy. I thought he was going to shoot like 57 on Saturday.
You did?
He birdied 5 out of the first 6 and then kind of cooled off. Doubled 18 to shoot 66. So I think Tommy said, quote, like he's in his post-round interview, he said, I'm playing like really, really, really good golf right now, and I'm not getting much out of it. So I feel like that should portend well for Troon. And also, guys, I just like to say I feel more positive about pro golf right now than I ever have, because I spent the last couple of weeks watching on commercial-free Swedish TV. I cannot emphasize enough how good Via Play was. I mean, it was like the commentary. You can choose English or Swedish. They had featured group stuff. There was not a single commercial. It was insane. And like I learned so much. I saw more of Renaissance this week than I've seen in the last 3 or 4 years combined, because I saw every hole, different camera angles, all of it. They had walk and talks. It was delightful.
This is why, like, when I came back to the U.S. after living it, like the start of No Laying Up was like 3 years in. I just watched everything abroad with no commercials. Came back and was like, "Whoa, guys, this sucks! Like, how did I manage to do this for 3 years? Because I didn't watch any fucking commercials." But
hey, one other name, Solly. Justin Thomas went out Thursday, shot 62.
I mentioned
and
that.
Then didn't break 70 the rest of the week.
I just said that.
Like, is the 62 just total freak? I thought maybe
he putted his ass off.
Yeah, JT on a links course, though, maybe that triggers something in the imagination and shot creation, but I'm not sure now.
I've been JT's been better than Spieth, but I've been warning you guys on both of these fronts that like they do those little runs. Neither of them can make it last 72 holes right now. Like they just cannot make it last 72 holes. They'll have nice rounds, they'll have nice 6-hole stretches, they have nice 12-hole stretches, maybe even 18 holes, but it just does not last 72 holes right now. So I mean, just very clearly at least a rung below the elite players in the game right now, which is still bizarre.
Sorry, I'll just say that with JT. Like, I thought when JT, getting back to the Rory Harry thing real quick, was like when JT linked up with Bones, I think everybody was like, holy shit, like
go.
What a decision. This is going to unleash JT. And he did win a PGA, so I don't want to like diminish it. But sometimes like, hey, it's not like the magic bullet, right? So I don't think there's any guarantee that if Rory did make a caddy switch, like he would play any different golf, right?
Yeah,
I think that's
also I can't figure JT out. Like he's never, just looking at Randy, to your point about the Open Championship and him, like it should suit him with creativity and shot making and because I do worry about like his swing. Like, is it that repeatable, right? Just like his highs are high, his lows aren't great, and then you had the putting in there, but like the Open Championship, like you would think, all right, like he likes coming over here. He likes playing links golf, and he's played it 7 times, and he's got 3 missed cuts, 4 cuts made, 1 top 25.
Bad sides of the draw. Bad sides of the draw, though.
Every time, right? Every time, bad side of the draw.
It's just bad luck, man. Damn.
He does. It was cool to see videos of him and Jordan and Ricky out there playing North Berwick and like putting around the pit hole. Like they do seem to have a bit of appreciation for it. So that part's cool. The play not as much so, but
I would like to see them go play Kilspindie, go play the Glen, go play Dunbar.
I don't know if I was talking to him this week. I don't know if he made it out to Kilspindie. I told him to go check it out.
Okay.
I don't know. He may try to play Prestwick this week as well, I think. So you may see him out there.
Yeah, I think Adam Scott is slated. I think he's staying on Prestwick. He's going to play out there a lot. What a cool thing of you come over here, and I think you would play better golf, right? If you're it, I don't know, it just makes it feel more cohesive.
Moving on to the Evian, guys, we had a close sweat today. I was already thinking about how we were going to reverse all of our Evian takes about it being a major. If our young hitter Lauren Coughlin would have won, she did not end up winning, unfortunately, which did save us from having to acknowledge the Evian as a major. If you did miss the action this morning, Lauren did shoot in the final group with Steph Kiriakou and Ayaka Furue. She shot a 4 under par 32 on the front, took the lead into the back nine by 1 over Steph and by 2 over Furue. They stayed that way into the 12th until Furue made bogey to fall 3 behind. But she would go on to make a bomb birdie at the par 3 14th. I was still not worried about her. Another bomb on the 15th. Kiriakou birdied 15th as well to tie Lauren, and Furue was one behind. So coming off the birdies, Furue and Kiriakou both stuffed it on 16. And if you don't know, 16 at Evian, the pin is in this bottom bowl. I forget who it was earlier, Randy, you may remember. Someone hit a shot earlier in the day that it took almost a minute for it to get down to the bottom and it went in the hole. It is on this. It is a little funnel pin. If you funnel it to the middle of the green, it will just go and go and go. And it literally took the clip I saw online was over a minute long. Lauren hits her shot towards that and misses the spot by 3 feet, maybe, and left herself in the worst possible spot to hit a putt from. Hits the putt right by, 3 putts it. And both Furue and Kiriakou made birdie. So Steph's at 18 under, Ayaka's at 17, and Lauren at 16. Kiriakou made a mess of 17, hit a chunk to chip, made bogey. Lauren short-sided herself and also made bogey. And Furue lipped out another bomb. She almost birdied 17 as well in this crazy finishing stretch that she has. So Furue and Kiriakou are tied playing the par 5 18th. Lauren is 2 back. Furue allegedly hit a good tee ball down the right side. Golf Channel didn't show it on the 76nd hole of allegedly a major, but
Kiriakou, they'll probably blame it on an international feed or not having cameras there, right?
Sky showed us. Sophie Walker confirmed to us that Sky showed all 3 of her shots that she hit.
Oh, they did. Okay.
Kiriakou had to punch out of the left rough. Furue went for it on 18, man, and barely cleared the water. It was a hero shot. Over the water, hits the front of the green, runs up, takes the back slope to about 18 feet right of the pin. Kiriakou stepped up, hit it to about 8 feet for birdie. So Furue's got a putt, maybe 18-footer for eagle on the last to guarantee the win. Otherwise, she's got to rely on Kiriakou to miss a pretty easy putt. And it was a double breaking putt, and she poured it in the center to finish. Birdie, 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 lipped birdie, eagle to win by 1 over Steph Kiriakou. First major championship for Ayaka Furue. It was an intense watching this morning. It was a good watch.
Definitely. I mean, with Lauren being in the mix, obviously some personal rooting interest. A great. Where do you want to start? Furue, Coughlin, somewhere else?
Let's start with Furue. I think that's
okay.
Yeah.
I think my thoughts on Furue winning is this has felt like she has felt like she was going to win a major sooner or later. I mean, this is her 4th top 10 in the last 2 years worth of majors. So in the last 8 majors, including today, it's her 4th top 10. She's just a super, super solid golfer. She's 24. This is only the 2nd time she's won on the LPGA, but she had won 8 times in Japan before coming over here. And putting, Solly, you mentioned those long birdie putts and
bombs.
The whole thing with Evian is it's a slopey course, right? These were bombs over multiple ridges and big slopes. Tip of the cap. That is always the strength of her game. She is always one of the best putters on the LPGA tour, and that carried her to victory. I thought her play into 18 was I was proud. She went for it. Ended up being what won her the tournament. I guess I don't have a ton else to say except, another wild dresser. I'm not sure if it's good or bad, but her fashion sense we talked about Big Shot Bob on the men's side. Ayaka has some provocative outfits she wears.
Don't put those two in the same conversation. Like, she wears stuff that
I think Ayaka's a little more fashion forward probably
yes,
than
correct.
Bob is. It felt like a result that was gonna come at some point with her winning a major, and it came this week. So kudos to her.
Yeah, I was honestly kind of surprised that she hadn't won a major. I feel like she's been in the mix for a lot of these things, and she went out and got it, man. I mean, I was gutted for Lauren, but even then, she needed to shoot. She would have had to shot 3 under, which would have given her 65 for the final round to have beaten Furue by 1. Otherwise, even 2 under on the back would have only put her in a playoff. So she did go out and get it, and it was stressful watching for Lauren and trying so hard not to tweet about it. I did my absolute best, guys. I fell on the sword and I wanted to promote to people to get to watch this in case she was going to win, but didn't want to be the cooler. Of course, I threw a vague tweet out and she made a bogey immediately after it anyways. So I got her. I apologize for that, but it was great. I mean, second run in a major championship, her second top 5 in a major this year. Again, it's a major only because Lauren finished in the top 5 to us here, but it's awesome to watch her play. I mean, for those that have followed her career from, the early parts of when we first started our relationship with her to now, she keeps getting better every single year. She's got her husband, John, on the bag. Just two of the best people we've come in contact with since we've gotten involved in golf, and to watch them, consistently being in contention now in major championships is a wild path. And it's just awesome to see. And we're really extremely happy for them.
Totally agree. I think she's got all the shots. She's truly one of the most talented kind of high upside players in the world. I think it's just been a matter of believing in herself and believing that she just believing that deep down. And I feel like she does now, and we're seeing the results of that. And so to her, to see her potentially making the Solheim Cup team this year, I mean, if she keeps playing like this, it's no doubt. And even if she's in need of a captain's pick, I can't imagine it's a better player to have on the team, just from a team component, can pair up with literally anybody out there, drives the shit out of it. Her putting has improved drastically over the last year and a half. Immensely proud of Lauren, happy for John with him being out there. And yeah, I mean, I think it's something too on the LPGA tour. Lauren made $400,000 plus this week. Yeah. That's still that's a really big deal for her career and for her just travel and lifestyle, and kind of how she can solidify herself as one of the best players in the world moving forward. So,
she was on the Epson tour when we met her, and it was kind of like unsure of what the rest of her career was going to look like. And it's been awesome.
Yeah, even moving into the beginning of last year, she's that was kind of the first time that she'd ever had status on the LPGA tour, moving from one season to the next, or full status and some security. And so you're seeing the dividends of that kind of pay off. So I think, and then going back, I remember watching Furue at Pebble last year and thinking, oh my God, she's just never misses off the tee. It's unbelievable. And then Steph Kyriakou, shout out to her, great finish today. I mean, had the bogey on 17, but birdied 15, 16, and 18. And she's starting to stack up some really, really good finishes. And you talk to anybody out there, she's a really promising, just a good player, proper player. So, I will say the LPGA, all right, if you want me to treat this like a major, then you can't go off and fucking threesomes off split tees on Sunday when there's no weather in the forecast between 8:30 and 10:30 local time, and then tell us that it's for travel purposes. If it's a major, then that should be the center of gravity. And
right.
Who's flying out of Geneva at 7 p.m. only all right, then they're flying to London Heathrow or somewhere to hop on a flight the next morning anyway. They're going to be in a hotel that night. That doesn't make any sense.
It's just way simpler if it's just not a major, man. And I don't know if we need to relitigate all of this, but it's a major. It's a minor. It's a major in name only, right? It's big purse, big money, but it just like it doesn't hold up, man. And
It's embarrassing.
the
Yeah.
coverage was predictably disgraceful. But like I can't stress
Their
this enough.
their broadcast partner was touting their presence at a charity golf event this week. Like their broadcast partner was doing wall to wall coverage in Lake Tahoe,
Yeah.
and not at a win. Like, yeah, Tron, you're exactly right. Like you can tell us it's a major, but the way I see a lot of the parties around the LPGA like acting toward this tournament, like it's not, even though it produces great winners. Like the Evian's probably produced the best run of winners over the last decade of any quote unquote major.
Yeah. It's also like it's kind of a stray spot on the schedule. Like they play the Dow, and there's the run of majors in the US with US Women's Open and KPMG and all that. And then they play the Dow, and then they go over here for a week, and then they go back, and
Going back for the
they
Olympics.
and then so they go back and they play in Toledo, and then they go to Canada, and then they go to Portland, and then they go back to Scotland from the West Coast. It's just like, I know they've made strides with the women's schedule, but all right, maybe start with like your quote unquote major, getting that in the right spot on the schedule, leading into or coming out of the links, because there's the Irish one, there's the Scottish Open.
In their
there's the
defense,
Women's
it
Open.
usually does, but the Olympic year has thrown things for a little bit of a wrinkle here with having to move it up for the Olympics. But I honestly, like, I can't like come up with a lower bar for golf coverage to clear than like the winner of the tournament eventual winner of the tournament tied for the lead, playing the final hole of the tournament, the tee shot needing to be shown or acknowledged, like that's not, there's not a lower bar you can cover. And maybe the final putt would be the lowest bar possible, but other than that, like any other shot on the final hole is the lowest bar you have to clear to cover professional golf, and they didn't show it. Like, it's like,
how about
what
this?
the
How about Sky and Golf Channel are owned by the same company?
Yeah.
Right?
They
Like,
jammed in so
if you
many
guys are
commercials on each one.
uninterested, just give us Sky. Save the money. Don't send anybody over, and just give us better coverage on Sky, and everybody would be happy.
Just
So
have to jam the commercial.
two other shout outs. Patty T, final round 63, finishes 2 shots back. I thought, good to see her continuing a pretty strong year. And then Esther Henselet continues to play awesome golf, and she'll be a Solheim Cup, probably shoe-in on the European side. She finished T7 and is putting together, a big year. Madeline T12 as well. So
just on Solheim real quick, the qualifying period, we were talking about Lauren. She's currently sitting 6th on the U.S. points list. Top 7 automatically earn a spot. So she would, if it ended today, she would have a spot. The qualifying period for the women goes through the British Open. So that takes place the 3rd week of August. So they have a few more events, but TC, you're right. Like, I think Lauren, it would be a disgrace if she weren't on the team in some form or fashion, even if she's not in that top 7 come British Open time. So the other weird thing, we've talked about a women's major and we haven't said the word Nelly Court yet. Just kind of a meh week from her. Her unbelievable historic season is kind of petering out a little bit, which, like, listen, I'm not gonna like kill her for that. It's
understandable.
What was the deal with the dog bite? She got bit by a dog?
Yeah, that's kind of, I mean, she made a social media post. Yeah, she had to withdraw. She was going to play in the Aramco series event in London last week prior to the Evian this week. She had to withdraw from that. So she finished T26, as did Lilia Vu. They were actually paired together, which, had you told me at the beginning of the week, hey, Nelly and Lily are going to be paired together Sunday at the Evian, I'd be like, oh, hell yeah, let's go. But they were both kind of out of it, which was a shame. So, yeah, we'll see. The last major, like I said, will be at St. Andrews, the old course. So fingers crossed that should be a really fun event, proper test for the women. So we will see that in about a month's time.
On to, I would consider to be the main event for this week. It seems like it happened a long time ago. I hate when news breaks on Monday and we do a Sunday night podcast, but
are we talking Uncle Yost?
We'll get to Uncle Yost, but Keegan Bradley was named the United States Ryder Cup captain on Monday. What was your Randy? What was your reaction when you saw this announced?
I mean, I was just pretty shocked. Like, and it was a shock of just like, holy shit, that's out of left field. You could have given me a couple thousand guesses, and I'm not sure if I ever would have gotten to Keegan Bradley as a captain.
Couple thousand?
I think so. Honestly, I think so. I thought I've long been on record where I think the importance of the captain in a Ryder Cup has been a little bit overstated. So like I have no problem getting weird. I actually am like, hey, we've tried like the traditional, hey, these guys have all waited their turn. They all need to be captains at some point. So I am all for like going off the board and doing something like Keegan. I have no qualms with it. I just was totally shocked by it.
TC, what was your reaction?
Somewhat along those same lines. Like, I don't know if the bar is so low after Zach Johnson that, and I think it does. Like, I was thinking, oh man, like maybe they've had this in the works for a long time. Like, nope, they just called his ass up and said, hey, would you be interested in doing this? I thought for sure it was gonna be Stuart Sink or, someone along those lines, but like I dig it. Like I don't dig it for like, as far as like I'm a European fan, so like I dig it like, just like try something new.
Yeah.
And it seems I'm already tired of them talking about like the Bethpage angle and the St. John's angle and all that stuff. But I think just like the Ryder Cup is an entertainment product, right? And I think it's better to do this than to get some retread or somebody that doesn't know a lot of these players. Now that said, like, does Keegan have great relationships with a lot of these guys? Maybe that'll make it easier for him, right? But yeah, like Randy, like you said, like I'm on record as saying like there should be like make fucking Michael Jordan the captain. Right?
let's not. No. He's one of the worst general managers ever.
Yeah.
Or
the Hoodman's not doing anything. I don't care.
Like Toto Wolff,
Yeah.
So I don't even know what my initial reaction was because I think it was a state of shock, and I think I tried not to react to it on social media when it happened because it was like I just need to pull back a little bit. I need to hear from them. I need to understand it a little bit more. I'm glad I've waited until now to talk about it because I don't know if I'm all the way there, but I think I can get there. And I think I'm on my way getting there to this being a good idea. I'm definitely open to the idea of this, right? Skipping kind of the end of this, I wish this went down with like we floated this idea to Keegan. And he came back to us with like, here's my proposal. Here's what I want to do. Here's what we need.
Kind of like Hunter Mahan.
Exactly.
Like, with you, right?
Like here's how we're going to change the culture. Here's how we're going to do this. I know what these guys need. I think about blah, blah, blah. And if they were like, we heard that pitch and we were like, that's our guy right there. I think I'd be like, let's fucking go. I will, run through a wall to be on board with this one. I think we can still end up there despite their lack of good process in this of Keegan saying he literally had no conversations with anybody before they called to tell him he was the captain. It was like, it might be task failed successfully here. It's a little whiffs of Ted Bishop just like making the call with Tom Watson, but just on the opposite end of the spectrum in terms of like, instead of the veteran, like hard ass, we're going like young and like enthusiastic and all of this. So I like going through,
but also like, could he be too emotional and too
could, but so like going through like a checklist of what like Team USA needed to do was like, they needed to find someone to lead the team that can relate to the team that the players respect. Right. And does Keegan check both of those boxes? I'm not positive, but I think he can relate to the team, is a younger guy in the room. And like, I've talked to multiple players that were on that team that have all said like, it's just the complete lack of energy from like the captaincy and the inability to relate to the captains contributed to a lethargic team room and atmosphere within the team. Right. So that's one thing they need, of like just a different energy with the group. That can be a positive here. Need to be somebody from their generation, I think was pretty important in terms of, instead of Stu Cink or Tiger Woods, which we can talk about. Like, I wasn't loving the energy going down that path. Someone that understands like what this weird group of guys needs and wants. Some of it's kind of ridiculous. Like if you look at Xander's comments this week of like, the dinners and all this stuff, but like, hey, whatever it is, like get these guys to like stop coming up with excuses and whatever they need to play their best golf. Like maybe Keegan's the guy that can do that. He's enough outside the box that can start like laying that out there. And again, the most important one is like somebody that can create a culture, and like that's a complicated one. It's a really complicated one that they've failed at. And like a question I have is like, is he going to be able to check his ego at the door? Like from the press conference vibe I got, I would say yes. Like he was fantastic in that press conference. He was thoughtful. He was humble. It was not like a know-it-all vibe at all. He had very clear, concise answers to all the questions, and it was not, it just didn't seem like bullshit. He was very, very real and all that. Now, granted, Ryder Cups are not won and lost in the press conferences, but it speaks to like your ability to, put forth an image and a culture that I think the U.S. kind of team needs a change in. You hear a lot about this past week, like, and I've read a lot of the discourse, like this is the death to the boys club. And like, it's all just like very, very silly. It's just very like, if you want to be mad about Sam Burns, like making the team over Keegan Bradley, as if that would have made a difference in Rome, then sure, go right ahead. The problem is still not like the core of the golfers. Like it's getting the core of the golfers to play better golf. It's managing them, their expectations, the plan, the pairings, like the group. Like Scottie Scheffler and Brooks Koepka losing 9 and 7 in Rome is a bigger problem than like Sam Burns getting the last captain's pick. Like I really truly believe that. So Luke Donald like running total circles around ZJ in terms of planning, pairing you guys together at DP World Tour events, getting them to buy into their roles, playing 3-hole matches, and expressing the importance of them winning the first hole, of the matches, like all the stuff that he did to create an actual culture and there to hold his team accountable. He got like dynamite performances out of like Nikolai Højgaard and Robert MacIntyre, who was not playing good golf at the time. Like neither of those guys would have been on like a US B team last year. So that goes to speak to like, it's not a talent issue. It's like a management of that talent. Like the fact that they were able to get such great contributions out of those guys and Scottie Scheffler's getting like wiped off the golf course speaks to a lack of culture and like a lack of leadership and a lot of things. Like that's a core of the problem more than it is like these guys just picking each other and being buddy, which is, I think, an overstated part in a lot of the discourse in all of this.
But I think also, the buddy thing then gets into like, hey, if you're not questioning the little things, then can you have the confidence on the big things, right? And I think that's where, that's where I like the Keegan play, because it's someone who's built a career for himself that was somewhat unlikely, right? I think for the PGA of America, it seems like they're pretty amped about him being the son of a club, like of a PGA professional and someone who's won a PGA championship. Like those seem like bigger, kind of bullets on the resume than they probably should be.
Sure.
But I think, Keegan's also like, his kind of late career renaissance post broomstick, or post belly putter being outlawed, like has been pretty impressive as well, of like him kind of
and his
reinventing
likability,
himself.
his likability as well.
Yeah. But I think with Luke Donald, it's like a two-way, there's kind of two different paths, right? There's all the little decisions that you make whether it's empowering Dodo Molinari to, like, hey, not only bring all these stats and analysis into the team room, but also like, hey, let's truly leverage them and trust them and use them to make decisions
and implement that months in advance. Like, this is what we're looking at.
And then clearly communicate what those, like what you are looking at. So it's objective to the guys, because all these guys are like now at this point are pretty, like they're extremely analytical, right? Like they want to know what the metrics and the, what they're being judged on. Right. And how, like, all these guys want to know the how and the why, not just the what. And so I think that was obviously a big, like, I don't think Zach was even getting to the what, but I think the how and the why like didn't even exist either. He's just pulling shit out of a hat because he's a moron. But like truly, I mean, like, and like
the stories are
like
100%, like
zero social skills whatsoever. Like just a corn cob motherfucker. But like,
I love when TC gets fired up on VJ.
But then there's all that other. So like, you're establishing all that confidence in the captain with that stuff, and the assistant captains too, because I think they're extremely important, right? Like especially if you delegate properly and do the pod system and all that stuff. Hey, like you almost have a captain of each little pod, and then beyond that, then you do all that kind of that macro stuff that, the team room stuff and getting the right videos in there, getting all that stuff. And it's like, man, then it's like, you got the objective and you got the subjective and you're ready to run through a brick wall. And I feel like, but it doesn't matter. Like neither kind of matters unless you have both. Right. Or at least that like subjective stuff doesn't really matter unless, I think, for these guys, unless they feel like they have someone that can translate the analytics and the objective stuff to them. And then it's like, all right, cool. We're bought in. We're ready to run through a brick wall for you. And then you pour gasoline on that.
Well, and I still think like the U.S. team needs a player or a group of players to like be like the Rory and like buy into this shit and like be the leader by example, like culture wise, and be like, I don't need to like reheat literally everything from the past go around of just like how do you hold each other accountable? How do you set a team? Like if Rory is willing to check his ego at the door, then like Brian Harman can check his, just to pull an example out of there of like that's easy to follow on the European side, like because like Rory does, I'll play with anybody, I'll do anything, I'll mentor anybody, I'll do all of this, I'll be a leader, a captain out on the golf course. Like I will check my ego at the door. And it just doesn't feel like the US does that on that side. And I feel like I did not obviously buy into like Keegan loves this event so much he should be playing and like he needs to be on the team. Like that just didn't do anything for me in terms of like just the fact that he loves the event and hasn't unpacked the suitcase doesn't do anything for me as a player. But like as a captain, I can get talked into that in terms of like somebody that is willing to like
leave no stone unturned.
Totally. And like obsess over it, maybe obsess over it too much. I don't know. He says he's laying awake at night, like thinking of all the things he wants to do and all that. But like he might be the perfect man for the job in that regard of just like, yeah, we are going to do this. Yeah. ZJ went through the motions. Like ZJ was handed like such a great team from 2021 that set all these records. And like, he just did a bad impression of Steve Stricker leading it, like a really, really, really bad impression. And like, I'm not positive Steve Stricker was an incredible captain. And that wasn't just like an unbelievable team on a great home course advantage. But what's interesting is the U.S. gets stuck in these cycles where they play these home ones, they whoop their ass and they talk themselves into everything being fixed. Whereas like, if you change your process now going into the home one, and I'm guessing that this is a 2 years, a 2 go around cycle for Keegan. Like I'm guessing he's also going to be the captain for Ireland. I know Tiger.
I think I would be shocked if Tiger wasn't the captain, but I also bet that so that's kind of the thing that maybe should worry you a little bit is like, is Tiger just the shadow captain? And they're basically trying to create a 4-year cycle here. Cause I think that's the other thing that like with the US, it just seems like this is every 2 years, it's like, all right, let's throw that playbook out and start a new. And they tried to do that with the ZJ Stricker thing of like, hey, you know what? Like, no, we got a good thing going here, and we're just going to keep going. And it's like you said, no, like that was probably just a statistical like, hey, that there was like an 85% chance they were going to win with who they had on the team and everything. But I think whereas like you look at like Luke Donald wasn't starting from scratch, and granted, like Padraig was probably an outlier for what he did, but going back to Bjorn and some of the other guys, like Luke Donald didn't reinvent the wheel either. Like they've had a really good system in place, so like the foundation is a lot stronger. Whereas like is Keegan the guy to basically create a new foundation? I don't know
who it like.
And I don't even know what that even means.
I mean,
and not
JJ Redick? Should they have hired JJ Redick to do it?
Well, like honestly, John Wood, like being the team manager, like the combo of like Keegan and John Wood feels good to me. Like it really does in terms of like kind of somebody to help handle the day-to-day tasks of all of this. Like,
so then, all right, so Kuchar's probably gonna be assistant captain then. Cat's probably gonna be an assistant captain.
I'm so good on the Tiger part. I think Tiger is just a massive distraction to the whole thing. I think he's just like the wrong energy for all of this.
But that's like the black hole, like the vacuum sucking up all of the energy in the room, right? Of like,
you had no role in
like,
Rome.
He's not going anywhere.
He wasn't in Rome. Like he wasn't an assistant captain in Rome, right? Like I think he wants a thought with all of this too is like, I don't think he wants to deal with the live bullshit in relation to this of like having to pick like Bryson and like, be in the same room as the live guys. Like he's taking this stuff a lot differently than a lot of the other guys have, I think.
I bet Tiger also like doesn't want to do New York either.
Probably not.
Like it's going to be a zoo.
Yeah.
Like, I think Tiger once like, hey, send me to Adair Manor. It's a very, kind of controllable environment. It like, massive crowds, but hey, we're staying there at like the poshest resort on the planet. Like, we'll hang out in the whiskey library every night and have our team bunker there and, tell
Put the
jokes and
logos on
shit.
my Guinness for me.
Yeah.
I don't know. That's getting ahead, for Ireland. But I think this is interesting. I think it at least represents some kind of changing of the guard, and I'm definitely coming into this with an open mind. The devil's going to be in the details of all this. It's like him loving the Ryder Cup is not enough, like for him to justify being the captain. But I actually do have some. I'm leaning towards this. If I was had to choose between, do I have faith in Keegan to get this process right, or do I not? I lean on the side of I do, right? And an interesting comment he made in the press conference as well. Listen, we've not been necessarily the most pro Keegan, and that's confused a lot of people that listen to the show because it's like blah blah blah. You hear all these stories you can't tell, and all this, but he made a point to say in the presser, when I came out on tour, I treated everybody like they were the enemy, and he regretted that. Again, 10 years of stories of Keegan being an asshole is going to lead to us to shaping our opinions of what we think of the guy. Does he seem different now? He's saying this openly of yes, I look at how these guys have great relationships out there, and I wish I would have acted differently when I got out on tour. If he's willing to stand up and admit that, then I'm willing to come in with a much more open mind in terms of, his open-mindedness to the process and being willing to be a leader of a group of guys that are not necessarily the easiest guys to lead. So the more I'm talking, the more I feel all in, honestly. This is way better than it's way better than Stuart Sink. It was going to be the same exact problems. This is a change in the culture. Do they get it right? I don't know, but it needed a change.
Yeah, I like that it signals open-mindedness, right? And just hey, yes, we're acknowledging that something has to change, and it can't just be the same, mid 50s,
right?
Even though I think Stuart Sink would probably he will be a good captain at some point in whether it's President's Cup or Ryder Cup. I don't know. I think Stuart Sink's a pretty smart guy. What'd you think about his comments on captain's picks?
What did he say exactly? I was doing a couple things.
I think he just said hey,
looking into making
kind
more
of signaled,
automatic.
hey, more automatic, which I don't know. It feels like maybe kind of a cop out, or hey, you could almost treat them as more automatic, and say, hey, it's going to take a lot to unseat these guys, but you'd almost want to have that in your back pocket. Because I think if you're going to say anything about the U.S. team selections over the last decade plus, it's just that they're really stock, right? They never go off the board. They never really do anything interesting, which kind of signals hey, there's not really a greater system or philosophy in play here. It's just hey, let's, so whether you wanted to go with team room stuff, or if you wanted to go with, hey, let's get somebody that we think is going to be really dynamic in match play. I don't know. I think Sahith would be a really good play. I'm not sure if he's great for Bethpage, but at some point, Sahith feels like someone who, man, he puts lights out. He's streaky with the driver, and you pair him with someone he's a great iron player. You pair him with someone who's, maybe a straighter driver. It's man, that seems like a pretty good combo there.
Yeah. I'd like to see them revisit the whole point system in general. It's just not good. You're giving away major, points to major events that happen in 2024 when the event's going to be in 2025. And that's no telling of what kind of form a guy is going to be in. It's just, the whole thing is just, that part's all broken. Now with 6 automatic spots, 6 captains picks, it's pretty, you just want to avoid the scenario where if you have 9 automatic qualifiers, 8th or 9th guy might have started the year great, be playing terrible golf, and you don't want to bring him, but you're forced to because he qualified on points. Is that good for team culture? Yeah. No. I think 6 and 6 is a fair balance. I do think that would be punting a little bit, but also I would totally want to revisit the point system to begin with. Use, I don't know, more of a strokes gain scenario, or just it can be way outweighed by Brian Harman winning the Open last year. It's double points, and it's also triple the money in those events also. So you end up with these big outliers of these big weeks that I don't know if it necessarily signifies that you're going to be great in team play and match play. It's a ton of variables, but that's all.
I guess the one concern would be does Keegan look at his personal experience as, hey, I don't want this to happen to someone else, and we're going to have 10 automatic picks and guys are going to earn these, and it's super objective.
Potentially. That's that's maybe a future problem. I don't. I'm willing to, again. I'm coming into this with an open mind and benefit of the doubt here, honestly, because again, after
It's
hearing,
sick. I like it's
right?
sick. Like as a fan, it makes me happy. Right?
Yeah, it's interesting.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, I think it may not be the right answer, but it's in the right spirit. How about that?
Yes, I think that's good.
I like that. Yeah.
And I think it's interesting that they're blowing it up kind of before a home one, right? And it almost you kind of have to, but you can't make a change like this if you go out and if Tiger would have been the captain at Rome or in New York and they stomp him, like you're not going to be able to make an outside the box call going into Ireland. So we'll see.
Yeah.
Rory said that Ryder Cup viewers were in disbelief when told about it, but I don't know. I think it's going to start making a little bit more sense through time. But maybe I'm being overly optimistic here, but maybe it's just far enough away from ZJ to just make me forget that ever happened.
We'll see what happens with the course setup too.
Yeah.
I know they've taken some of it out of their hands, but
Liv Valderrama. I don't know how much this you guys got to see. I've only watched one hole. I was watching the final hole when Anirban Lahiri hit a wedge onto the green on 18. I got caught up doing something else, and I was like, oh, he's going to 2-putt and win. He missed about an 18-inch putt to lose the individual and team titles. They went into a playoff where Sergio won in a playoff, and Fireballs also won in a playoff. It was a shocking end to the end of that one, but
I'm just catching up here, but to see the Majestics were in a really good spot heading into the final round and shot 9 over today, and then Adrian Morank's performance today I got to take my hat off to him on the cleeks. -1 on a not a good course fit. He was 11 over through the first 2 days. Picked up the team, both him and Samoya. Blandy, not the best day for him. So, but finished middle of the pack, T6 for my cleeks. So they continue to punch above their weight. Solid. They tied with the aces and they beat Legion 23. The Range Goats and Smash were last and second to last.
I know my Smash Burgers getting last place was a tough finish, but
taste it.
Some notable finishes among some guys we expect to be involved in the major championship coming up this week. Tyrrell Hatton finished 3rd. P. Reed and Louis Oosthuizen finished 4th. Cam Smith and Joaquin Neiman finished in a tie for 6th. Bryson 9th. John Rahm 10th. So
Blandy T14.
Blandy, of course, T14. Is he in the Open?
He's not in the Open. I believe he'll be. I don't even think he's in the Senior Open. Solid. We can talk about that if you'd like. Yeah. It's disgusting.
Kepka finished tied for 27th. DJ in a tie for 17th. Abraham Answer had a very sick club throw, just chucked a wedge into the woods at one point. And John Rahm also got mad at one point. Those are the clips that I saw on social media. So.
AK, good first 2 rounds, and then lit himself on fire today.
Yeah, he finished tied for 49th, but managed to beat Harold Varner, Kieran Vincent, Thomas Peters, and Hudson Swafford.
I will say, Valderrama, like the concept of playing team golf at Valderrama, stroke like high school style, like stroke play team golf, where because it is it does not agree with everybody, right? It is a provocative golf course. And
I'm not sure it's good, but it's uncomfortable and it's intriguing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I like that it exists, and I think that it's a good counterbalance to some of the other stuff out there.
Yes.
And you saw that with this leaderboard, with Bond playing well.
Yeah. Other news: Riv was officially announced as the Olympic course for 2020. I thought this happened like 6 years ago. I don't.
Announced, yeah. They sent out a press release on like Friday evening. Like, what?
And then I don't know whether to spend like 30 minutes on this or like 2 and just refer people to Adam Shupak's article in Golf Week. But Bryson and his former coach, Mike Shy, are in quite a public dispute at this point about a junior tour that Mike and Bryson kind of co-started at some point together. And Bryson has basically like stopped funding it, is what Mike is
It's named after Bryson's dad, right?
The John DeChambeau Memorial Junior Tour is closing its doors due to lack of funding. Again, I don't have time to get through all the back and forth in there, but shout out to Adam Shupak, who got like interviews with both of these guys, Bryson as well. Bryson would say about it, it's a complete and utter lie, all of it. It's a disgruntled former employee, and unfortunately, it is what it is. We've had numerous conversations. It hasn't worked out from a business standpoint. Mike's statement said that Bryson stated how much he hates nonprofits and would only loan the money to his father's namesake and needed to make money on it. Needless to say, I'm very disappointed. I'm sure his father would have been disappointed as well. I'm very hesitant to extend any benefit of the doubt towards Bryson, but as soon as I read he hates Mike said he hates nonprofits, I was like, the truth here is probably somewhere in the middle. But it's kind of a he said, she said about this junior tour that Bryson's kind of refusing to send money to, and he was going to order a non-recourse loan to go that way. Bryson
technically it would be a he said.
Excuse me, correct.
Sorry.
Bryson said it's quite disappointing how he's turned this and spun this. It's a non-recourse loan that was going out. I gave him my dad's name, image, and likeness for free on the assumption we'd have a good business plan, and it just hasn't worked out. I'm going to be doing a lot for my community, just in a different fashion with a proper business plan and done correctly. It's worth noting, like, this was kind of described as like a charity. It's like a tour to kind of subsidize massive junior fees and like hosting, tournaments that were going to be like $60 for kids to play in instead of the hundreds of dollars usually. So I read that as like, do you need a business plan here, man? Or is this like a charitable thing you're doing with the hundreds of millions of dollars that you have? But again, the truth is probably somewhere in the middle on that. Of a special note, he directed this at Adam Schupak. He said, Bryson said, I'm at a high point right now, and I'm a big character right now, and I'm trying to do what's right for the game of golf, and you're trying to bring my image down to hurt the game of golf, essentially. This just ain't a story. It's a disgruntled employee, my friend, which that speaks to Bryson, how Bryson views his image, makeover, if you will, of like, hey, I'm hot right now. You're not allowed to criticize me right now. You're not allowed to bring me down right now.
Some of the quotes about like how Bryson, this is how Bryson treats his dad or treated his dad and all that stuff. Like, whoa.
He said, Mike said, he said, I'm his second dad, right? DeChambeau's father, Bryson's dad died in 2022. He said, he treats me just like his real dad. He treated his dad like shit. It's not a pretty story.
Like, I don't even really want to, we've said plenty about Bryson. I stand by all of it. I'm sure the truth is somewhere in the middle, but also, it tends to line up with like, hey, like maybe there's an amicable solution to this that doesn't involve like, you guys shitting all over each other in public.
Yeah.
Right.
Mike would say, all I can say is I did an awful lot for that kid. Being on pins and needles for the last 7 years, dude has literally almost killed me, and most of which was to protect him. I know some of the worst stuff imaginable, and now that they know that my bite is a little worse than my bark, all he had to do was be a decent person and take care of the junior tour. So yeah, read the story. Yeah. It's wild. I don't really know what to make of it other than like, Bryson seems like a nightmare to work with, which we kind of knew. And also that he also called up Bryson the Sunday night of the US Open and asked him for $2 million for the tour, which again, incredible story from Adam. Please go read that. It's definitely worth your time. So
I thought one other quote, Solly, and again, I will echo, like, this story has like every quote. Mike Shy talking about Bryson. The only reason his life has changed is because he's playing better golf. His whole world revolves around golf. If his golf is good, he's good. If his golf is bad, he's bad. And everything in the world is bad. That is the essence of Bryson DeChambeau. It's I imagine whatever your feelings on Bryson are, you can read this story through those tinted glasses. It is just messy, beyond messy, and we'll see how long it stays a public mess, I guess.
Uncle Yost is out of the Olympics after we celebrated last week that he was in. He is. Turns out they'd already closed the field for the Olympic golf. He has been on the reallocation list, which I think makes him like first alternate if there is any change in the field.
Can we just call that an alternate? Like that was the most confusing press release I've ever seen that they sent out. It's just like, can we just speak plain English here?
Yeah,
it's crazy.
It's tough. It's unfortunate. So
I feel like Olympic golf could be so cool and such a positive for the sport, and it's the most unimaginative, uncreative format, and they just can't get out of their own way. And so, Solly, I am excited they're going to your favorite Le Golf Nacional, which will be which will be fun.
It's gonna be so much.
Hopefully, there's some climate protesters there too.
Oh, I feel like this shit's gonna get weird one way or another. I feel like I'm with you though, TC. It's such an indictment of just the powers that be, both in the Olympics and in golf, that like this is the format that we're just left with. Like we just can't. We're just like too big. We're too bureaucratic. Like, why can't we come to a much more fun, engaging type of golf competition? It just, the more I think about that, it just makes me more infuriated, honestly.
And it's the PGA Tour driving the bus. Like they're the ones that really lobbied, and like good on them to get it into the Olympics, and then they've done absolutely nothing with it.
Well, like there's a proposal on there
Such a
for
waste.
LA for like a mixed team event, right? Like there's a possibility that it changes the next go around. And like the problem was like the Olympics said, like, I'm paraphrasing, of course, but like they basically said like we're not going to have it unless it's like what is your peak, like your biggest competitions? What do you do? It's like, oh, we play 4 rounds of stroke play. It's like, okay, well, we're going to have that for the Olympics. Then we're not going to do like a gimmick for the Olympics. So I don't know how much blame goes on the Olympics or the tour or whatnot for that, but I think,
which is silly because they could have said like Ryder Cup. It's a team match play
Sure.
competition is one of our biggest.
And that's nationally based.
but you could do the
So
stroke
you
play.
do both.
You could do both. Yeah, you
Yes.
could do a team. Like there's how many
Right.
swimming events are there? You don't need to have just one men's event and one women's event. So anyways, looking ahead, we have the Open Championship coming this week. We'll have our preview pod will be out on Monday evening. We're going to have a Wednesday happy hour, 4 p.m. Eastern time on our YouTube channel. We'll have live shows on YouTube after every round this week. KVV is going to be on site writing. TC is on site as well, roaming around out there. It's going to be.
I'll be site adjacent.
Site adjacent. Yeah, he's in the.
I'll be on site on Thursday for the. Yeah.
You gonna get a lot of selfies in this week, TC?
Oh, you know I will, Randy.
So I need you, but we're going to do previews and all that. But before we leave tonight, TC, you've called that Tommy's going to win this so many times, and you threw a 12-6 curveball in the chat that Ludvig's going to win this week, and you can't. I'm not letting you go into this week with 2 horses here. Like you need to decide on one of these.
Tommy.
Okay,
I think Tommy's going to win.
Okay, all right. We can litigate the rest of that on all
I
our
think
preview
Ludvig will
content.
finish like 6th.
Okay.
Tommy will win.
Okay. So, anything else before we wrap?
We got the ISCO championship going on. I just want to shout out our guy ZB. Shot 64. Went out early today. Shot 64. Birdied 18th hole, and he's tied for the lead right now. I doubt it's going to hold up. They're 22 under, and Harry Hall and Pearson Cootie have 6 holes left to play, and they're tied and one back of the lead respectively. But Neil Shipley continues his great play. He's 2 back with like 5 to play, so he continues to be a revelation as well.
MLB draft is tonight, Randy. By the time this is out, it's already
really?
going to be out there. How does 1-2 go, Randy?
God, I'm hearing smoke. JJ Weatherholt to the Guardians on a team-friendly deal, and then I think,
I think the Reds.
I think the Reds go with Charlie Condon from.
Wow,
Georgia.
the Reds have the 2nd pick.
Yeah, they got lucky in the ping pong balls last year.
I think they go Bazana if he's on the board. If not, I think it's Condon. But it's
What are these position players?
Yeah,
or these
position
like
players.
high upside arms.
Position player. Chase Burns is going to be the first arm, I think, to go.
Probably more infielders, right?
Probably. They're both infielders, actually. So.
We did TC and I will be doing a chop session on the trap draw this week, featuring a very special guest. if anybody is into our good friend THG, I believe he is slated to make a triumphant return this week.
And we did a Seamsters Union this past week for the baseball chat. That's why I was getting that question in to plug that, as well as we had 2 videos released this past week. Poosh took on Pac Dunes, as well as me and TC played a match at Royal Troon. If you want to get a look at Royal Troon ahead of the Open this coming week, so. And
never give up, people. Never give up. That's the
never surrender.
Moral of the story from that match.
Never surrender. All right, we are done. Pre 6 p.m. on the East Coast on a Sunday. I don't even know what to do with my Sunday night tonight, guys. But TC, enjoy Scotland. Everyone enjoy Open Championship Week. It's going to be a lot of fun. Thanks everyone for tuning in. We'll be back. You'll be hearing plenty from us this coming week. Crack on and cheers.
Cheers.
For FanDuel, you must be 21 and older, 18 and older in D.C. and present in select states. FanDuel is offering online sports wagering in Kansas under an agreement with Kansas Star Casino, LLC. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit FanDuel.com/RG in Colorado, D.C., Iowa, Michigan, New Jersey, North Carolina, Ohio, Pennsylvania, Illinois, Kentucky, Tennessee, Virginia, and Vermont. Call 1-800-NEXT-STEP or text NEXT-STEP to 53342 in Arizona, 1-888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org/chat in Connecticut. 1-800-9-WITH-IT in Indiana, 1-800-522-4700. Visit ksgamblinghelp.com in Kansas, 1-877-770-STOP in Louisiana. Visit mdgamblinghelp.org in Maryland. Visit 1-800-GAMBLER.net in West Virginia or call 1-800-522-4700 in Wyoming. Hope is here. Visit gamblinghelplinema.org or call 800-327-5050 for 24/7 support in Massachusetts or call 1-877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY in New York.